I was working off-site recently on a ministry project with one of our ministry partners here at church. We were down near downtown helping to build a house, and one of the people who was there became quite entertaining to watch. Whenever his phone rang, it was a 50-50 chance that he was either going to be very understanding with the person on the other line, or he was going to absolutely explode with fury. The first time I witnessed it, his cell phone rang with a tune from a 60s rock song. He answered it with integrity. "Hi, this is Stephen." A brief moment went by with Stephen listening very closely to the person on the other end of the line, and then, like a switch going off, he screamed quite loudly, "No, I'm not going to sell my house to you. Quit calling me. Goodbye." It was one of those robocalls that we've all been getting. A reverse mortgage company that had pretended to be a local number and had infiltrated Stephen's circle of inner peace. What was so interesting to me was that by the time his cell phone was back in his pocket, Stephen was seemingly back to normal, talking with the gentle voice that he had introduced himself with earlier that day. Now, it didn't take long before his phone rang again. The same rock song ringtone. I heard it and made my way near the room where Stephen was to hopefully watch the upcoming show. He answered the phone again with integrity, ready to listen intently to the other person who needed to reach him. This time it was just another volunteer asking about supplies or something else on the build site. Stephen stayed calm and polite. I was a little disappointed, to tell you the truth, that it wasn't a scammer on the other end. I'd wanted to see what he'd tell the next person, but it didn't take long, though. Again, I heard that rock song ringtone on the porch. I made my way towards it. "Hello, this is Stephen." And then a pause for about a minute. Probably too long of a pause for it to be somebody that Stephen didn't want to talk to, I thought with disappointment. But then all of a sudden, with an even louder voice than before, "No, I don't want an extended warranty on a car that I sold 3 years ago. Why would I want that? Stop calling me. Goodbye." And then again, like nothing had happened, by the time Stephen had returned his phone to his pocket, he was back to normal, looking over at me and offering a compliment of some sort on the brickwork that me and somebody else were working on. The other volunteer and I both smiled from ear to ear when he turned around to walk away, not wanting him to know really how funny we thought his struggle with the phone call was. But you see, I wasn't just taking delight in somebody else's misery, though maybe a little. It was quite entertaining. What it really was, though, is that it reminded me of this Jewish tradition that I'd learned about not too long ago. It's about Elijah, the famous prophet who sometimes tormented people until they learned a needed lesson. The idea goes that when you meet people in your life and they are the biggest pains, the people who for some reason can get under your skin easier than anybody else, well, that's Elijah, coming to teach you a lesson from heaven. Not only is this encounter not something to avoid, but actually a blessing hidden in disguise, offering the people that Elijah encounters something in their life that they are lacking and will need. Most often patience is what seems to be learned, I think. I thought about telling Stephen this theory about Elijah and how I maybe saw Elijah finding him over and over again whenever that rock song ringtone played in the air. But I thought to myself, too, he's got to learn it for himself. God is definitely in his life helping him to grow right now, even if he can't see it yet. I wonder how long he's going to live life like this until he learns to just not answer the phone when he doesn't know who it is. That makes all too much sense. There must be more there that he needs to learn. I think I'll just let him learn it on his own. Sometimes people need that. Similarly to how Stephen didn't recognize Elijah when his phone rang. We see too today in our gospel story how the people who are there to crucify Jesus don't recognize who he is. He's right in front of them, come to help them and teach them, but they can't recognize him. I mean, it's the King of Kings there, but because of their expectations of what the Messiah should look like, they miss him completely. They just see Jesus as a scammer. Sure, they see the sign over his head that even says King of the Jews, but they look past it and pass it off as irony. But the true ironic thing being that it's true. The King of the Jews is right there. Now, the good news for them and for us in the gospel today is that despite the fact that they don't recognize him, that doesn't mean that Jesus won't keep trying to reach them. Jesus isn't going to stop doing what he came to do because their eyes are covered. Even in the text, we witness today that Jesus offers a prayer for those who refuse to see him for who he really is, famously saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." A prayer that I know we all need. Despite the fact that they have put Jesus in the most painful position that they could dream up, nailing him to the cross until he suffocated under his own weight, Jesus still doesn't veer from his path to bring salvation to them. As they mock him and divide his clothes, as they laugh and tease him, Jesus still remains faithful to the purpose for which he came. From the very place on the earth where God in Jesus Christ will be killed by the people, we witness maybe God's most perfect example of unconditional love. Praying even for enemies and appealing to the Father for their forgiveness due to their lack of understanding. "I'll take their guilt," Jesus says. "Give it to me, even this." Imagine that. This is the gospel today. Unlike we would expect everyone else to do, we witness today the fact that Jesus isn't here and never came here to save his own butt. Even when faced again with the temptations that the devil offered him in the desert, he doesn't waver. You remember them. "If you are the Son of God, then something or another," over and over again. And now today in the gospel, it's the people who are yelling something eerily similar. "If you are the King of the Jews, then save yourself." But as we witness, Jesus still refuses to call upon the power of God for his own comfort and security. Jesus didn't come for this reason. Quite the opposite, actually. He came for us and is willing to endure anything and everything for us, even when we look in his face and laugh at him. Jesus is truly altruistic. And all we can say is, wow, this man truly is the Son of God. Because nobody else could have done this. Nobody. Now, it's easy to look back at this old story and side or want to relate with the one person, the criminal on Jesus' side who actually recognizes him. It's a place of comfort for us Christians who do see that man on the cross as the King of Kings. We all enjoy claiming for ourselves Jesus' words, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." But in all reality, I don't think that's the point of this tale. To find the easy way past the trouble and disassociate ourselves with it. Way too often, like Stephen missing Elijah in his life with the robocalls, we miss the Jesus in our lives, who too is walking on the face of the earth today, loving us and teaching us, offering us comfort and blessings, come from heaven to walk with us and pop up in others on a regular basis. I was just reminded by one member here last week of the sermon illustration that I shared maybe a year ago about a homeless person coming to the church and how I missed the opportunity to serve the Christ in him. How I ended up driving all over town to find him once I realized that I had missed that encounter with Christ, and how in the end I never found that man. He had disappeared, leaving, though, forever with me this experience of complete failure, and hoping more than anything to never repeat this mistake again. I knew I didn't want to miss the Christ standing right in front of me again. But still, I know since then, as I reflect, that I have. There have been plenty of times that I lost my cool since then, or didn't help where I could have. I've missed the Christ and my own children as they took me over the edge with their craziness. Or other times when I offered less than a blessing to somebody on the road who wasn't driving according to my own standards. Or other times when I made an excuse to just not help this time. I think there are a lot of times that I still miss the presence of Christ in my life. Looking right into his face and missing the opportunity to say something that honors his presence. Something like, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Or simply, "I see you there, Jesus." Can you just imagine what that might mean to somebody? To hear that told them as you look into their eyes, "Jesus, I see you there." But again, the point of the gospel isn't to shame me or you or any of us into right action. In reality, we will hopefully amend our ways and be better people in following Christ. But the point is that God is here despite our actions, despite our failures, even those big ones like looking into Jesus' face and mocking him. I mean, if we'd have recognized him, we would have definitely stopped, right? Of course we would have. We don't want to be like the soldiers in this story today. Now, the point in our gospel lesson on this Christ the King Sunday is that Jesus truly is our King, and a good one. He is here to love us and bless us, to take care of us and offer us grace as we grow in our understanding of this world and God's relationship with us in it. In short, we're going to screw up. And even if we don't like it, we all know that we're going to look into the face of one of our neighbors where we all admit the presence of Christ rests, and we're going to do something less than Christian. Maybe, hopefully, not mock them and cast lots for their clothes in front of them as we nail them to a cross, but still, sadly, there will be times that we miss the face of Christ right in front of us. The good news, though, is that salvation isn't up to our actions. Salvation is God's action in love. And God's love for us is unconditional. Sure, we shouldn't do what we know better. But even beyond that, beyond anything that we do, we are witness today that God's love and grace for us transcends our understanding, offering us mercy from the true King. And I think we are all left dumbfounded at this level of mercy, all left, for those of us who see God on that cross, to just look up and say, wow, this man truly is the Son of God, because nobody else could have done this. Nobody. Jesus is the King of the Jews, the King of Kings, the King of our lives. And so may we be faithful servants and follow his way of love and mercy for even those who laugh and mock us to our faces, who want us to die. May we always answer the call with integrity and learn the lessons that Christ and maybe Elijah would have us learn, even if they are as hard as what Jesus makes them out to be, or as hard as Stephen made it seem answering his robocalls. May we, like our King, always share with the world a mercy and grace that doesn't really seem to make any sense at all. No sense, unless it is indeed from heaven itself.